Hello there, this is Rom Wills, and I'm coming back at you again with yet another video. Today, I'm going to talk about why some men become dogs. Let me start out with a story. Back in the day, there was a young man named Dave. In high school, Dave wasn't one of the more popular boys. Oh no, he wasn't one of the more popular boys. He was about maybe a good 5'9", slim dude. You know, he wasn't great at sports. He was decent. He wasn't like the life of the party type, knew where all the parties were, or, the fanciest dresser. But he was very good in school. And, he was all about, he was in the church. He went to church. He was a good kid. The mothers in the neighborhood wished their daughters would bring home somebody like Dave. Of course, the daughters had other ideas. Because you see, Dave was labeled in probably one of the most debilitating ways a man can be labeled. He was considered a nice guy. So his crew, him and his boys, who, even though they were busting out all those A's, they weren't getting to play. Now, I know y'all think y'all have heard this before, but nah, keep listening. Now, as Dave went older, he went to college, went to a prestigious school, got a decent job, started trying to date a little bit, but, at some point during, he would go out with a woman, and then at some point, and he would hear the infamous, "You're a nice guy, but." So anyway, at one point he met this woman. We'll call her Alice. He met Alice, and they got to be really good friends. Now, he was romantic with her, and he tried to take it a step further, but she kept him in the friend zone. And she was like insisting on it. Like, "You're just my friend." All right? What Dave didn't know was that while he was trying to wine and dine Alice, she was having sex with this thug dude named Joe. Joe Roughneck. Old school dudes know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so, dude would like take her out, take her to the movies, dinner, all that, take her home. He might get a good hug at the end. As soon as she get in there, she call up Joe. Joe come in there and knock it out the box. Sometimes he ain't even take off all his clothes, just take his pants down around his ankles, bent over the couch, and went to work. And this went on for a little while. And of course, Alice didn't see anything wrong with this way of doing things. She had one man for one thing, had another man for another thing. At one point, Dave helped Alice assemble some exercise equipment in her apartment. And, he assembled it and then left. And then the irony, Joe Roughneck came over and had sex with her on that same piece of exercise equipment. So it was a jacked up situation. And, eventually Dave found out. Dude was heartbroken. My man, after dealing with this, after spending so much time and energy on Alice, something changed in him. The beast emerged. And I do mean the beast. Something snapped in this dude. That dude This was a dude who was helping in the community, trying to be upstanding, always a gentleman to woman, but they weren't having it. So what did Dave do? First of all, he started hitting the gym. You know, he was making a lot of money anyway, so he started upgrading his wardrobe. But the main thing he did, he started hanging around with some dogs. Some dudes whose mission in life was just to cause misery to women who just didn't care. And after maybe 3 years, the nice guy that Dave was died, and a new dog was born. Rough, rough. All right, y'all. Yeah, one of the things though, I wanted to talk today about why some men, and I'm gonna emphasize some men become dogs, because despite what many women out here think, the overwhelming majority of men are not dogs and are not even players, and no matter what they think. Players and dogs and men who have sex with multiple women. You know, I should do a video on some of these women players, and I think I will. But anyway, we're talking about the men today. Men who dog women, who are players, are actually a very small subpopulation. You know, a lot of women like to call some man they had some trouble with a player, but nah, it was just an incompatible relationship. The overwhelming majority of men, regardless of their economic, racial, ethnic background, they just want a woman who's cool with them. And they good with that. She don't even have to be drop dead gorgeous. As long as she's like, you know, somebody they can chill out with. They're not trying to be that way. But you'd still have that subpopulation of men who just become dogs. And usually the pattern's the same, because no man is born a dog. No man starts out. Every man starts out, at least culturally, trying to do the right thing. But what happens with every single dog is that there's some woman in his past that just tore his heart up. Now, in the example I gave, you know, with Dave and Alice, you know, it was Alice. You know, she, you know, he was all feeling her, doing all this stuff. Yet she was, you know, going ass up for Joe Roughneck. But see, that's just one example, and you know that's an obvious example. But a lot of times it can get deep. Sometimes a man could like be rejected by the woman who probably meant the most to him in life, and that's his mother. Despite contrary to popular belief, all mothers are not good mothers. There's a whole lot of children who are removed from maybe a single mother's custody because of abuse. There's a lot of boys who've had that. So, you know, if the most important woman in his life rejects him or abuses him or do some stuff, that can do something to a man's psyche, you know. And I mean, I can even get deeper and tell you specific instances where if this happens, you know, if he feels any type of rejection, he might tend to close his heart, because the one thing dogs have in common, I ain't even just saying players, I'm just talking about men who dog women, is their hearts are closed. And they don't give a fuck. You know, that woman is just, you know, she's meat. She's just antelope, you know, in the Serengeti, you know. Something for that lion to sustain himself on. And, you know, and that's one. It's not always the mother, you know. Most cases it ain't the mother, but that's in there. It can also be that first girlfriend or a group of women. Well, see, one thing a lot of women have to understand, and this is all the way across, a lot of women, they'll reject some guy. You know, they'll reject him for like, oh, he too skinny, or he look too weird, or, you know, he ain't cool enough, or, you know, about 1,001 reasons. And they have a good laugh with their friends. And a lot of men have been there. A lot of men, you know, they might develop a thick skin or whatever, but still it happens. And one thing women have to understand, and I'm gonna hit y'all with a deep statement. And people who like subscribe to my private site, they know I get real deep. A man makes love to a woman's body, but a woman makes love to a man's mind. And what I mean by that is a woman can hurt a man just by her words, how she either accepts him or she rejects him. That's why you get a lot of men, these men can be in their 40s and 50s and they still thinking about some rejection in the 6th grade. Now the woman thinking that, oh, he should just get over it. That was the 6th grade. They were little. And no, it's like I talked about in a couple videos ago about boundaries. A man's boundary. That's another part of a man. That's where a man is emotionally vulnerable. And a lot of women know that too. That's why a lot of women, if they go at a man, they're going to try to go at him emotionally. And see, a lot of women, when they demean that man and they reject him, a lot of men, some men, they just withdraw. Some men work to gain a woman's favor, or they try to put on that mask, or they try to be whatever they think the women want. But then you get a small percentage of men who something snaps in them. Something snaps. There's there was a Richard Pryor joke. And he was talking about he had a Doberman, right? He had a Doberman pinscher. And this Doberman is supposed to be guarding his house. But the Doberman was a punk. And he said, this Doberman let a burglar in and was showing like all the silverware, all the stuff, just letting the burglar get it. But then he said as soon as that burglar touched the doorknob, was about to leave, the Doberman changed up. And the Doberman's like, you can't leave yet. I want to play. That shit from The Exorcist and whatnot. And it was like, that's the one thing with these dogs. They get to that point, like women. See, one thing, and this is why, like on a lot of social media, why a lot of these guys are acting out, and a lot of these guys are, they straight up bashing women, because many women, they just, like I said, they just cannot just reject a man. Like they just can't say, no thank you or whatever. Some can. I'll take that back. Some know how to just let a guy down easily. They might even tell a white lie, say they got a boyfriend even if they don't, and that's cool. Or some women actually skilled at doing it. They could say, oh no baby, no, I have someone right now, or something. They'll do it. But then some women, they will actually demean a man for even having the nerve to approach him. Like, who you think you are approaching me and all of that. And they'll do it meanly, and it'll be a good-hearted guy too. It ain't no guy trying to approach him disrespectfully. He might be some guy who's like a little nervous, but he still get up the courage, and they're gonna be mean about it, and then some will laugh at him. This is for the ladies out there. Karma is a bitch. That guy that you rejected, he don't really go anywhere. What happens is, if he's rejected a certain way, if he changes, if that one thing, if that spirit comes out, that dude will end up plaguing somebody else. That dude will make the changes necessary and will dog out some other woman for no other reason. And for the women hearing this saying it's wrong, miss me with that, because it happens. Because I've known several women who've got good women who got dogged out by the wrong dude, like some dude on some demonic shit. And instead of just like learning and stuff, they'll take it out on some poor nice guy. Well, it's the same principle. It's the same principle. And it's unfortunate. It shouldn't happen. But it's just how it is. You know, it's like when women say, well, why is that man dog? Why is he doing that? I'm like, well, first start with his childhood, you know, how he grew up, what type of women raised him, and then how women treated him when he was young. Because, like I said, shoot, men, we remember every little rejection. We might develop a thick skin or whatever, or have some macho exterior, but we still thinking about it. In fact, I could probably talk to any guy, and I could probably say, all right, how many women rejected you when you were in the summer between your eighth and ninth grade, and they could probably tell you to the person. And like I said, different men respond, but I'm talking about why men become dogs, or it's like it starts there, and then in adulthood a man know he doing the right thing, or at least what society say is the right thing, and then some woman taking advantage of his kindness, and then some women thinking the shit funny. It's like, nah, he's going to be like, nah, you know who's let the dogs out. And to be honest with you, some of them go a even step further. It ain't the dog to come out, it's the wolf. And now I don't even want to talk about the wolf. Yeah, I'll be scared. But some of these dudes out here howling in the middle of the night and stuff, they on some serious werewolf shit. You know, that beast ain't no joke. Once that man go to that level, it take an act of God or the Great Pumpkin to bring that dude back. But that's I just wanted to share that. When women see that, one of the things men and women have to understand, men and women, I'm gonna make that very clear. It's a vicious cycle out there. Whenever you see that woman acting out or some shit like that, there's some dude who probably dogged her. When women they see that man who's like, just dogging women being evil, just understand there's some women back there, and it happens. Like, ultimately, we both sides, men and women, have to just get back, and you know, we all need some healing out this motherfucker. But that's neither here nor there. Thankfully, there's some people out there trying to do that. But my thing is, in order to know what to heal from, we gotta know what the issue is. We can't sweep it under the rug. So, anyway, that's why some men, and notice I'm saying some men for anybody who gets stupid. I ain't say all men. Some of these people out here talking about all men are dogs. They was like, no. Yeah, I need to get off of that. You know? Some men. That's why some men become dogs. Anyway, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.